What do I mean by surveying the board? How much health do they have? How much drive gauge does she have? How much drive gauge do you have? And those are the important parts in this exchange for how you want to go about it.
I just can't do it. I can't take this shit no more, man.
Understanding that you do indeed have enough meter to drive rush cancel, granted it'll leave you in a little bit of a red spot, you do have that advantage over her. So there was no need to commit to something like the heavy blitz. I like the patience so far. Whoa! Scaling the rails way too fast, huh? Okay, so this is why I'm saying you're scaling the rails too fast, okay? You had some good neutral going on. Everything was cool, and then BAM! You wanted to go for it. Very luckily, we didn't get punished with one of our 5-frame normals, like our stand kick. Okay, one of the things that I'm noticing is that we're using the kill rush forward a little bit too much. No. Okay, let's go back here. So here we're walking back a lot. It feels like you're getting a little bit overwhelmed with what's going on. How do we manage this? Okay, the first thing that I'll say here is that number one, yes, you're using the right button, which is crouching light kick. I love that button for you, love it. But we are also simultaneously following it up with heavy blitz, which is terrible. Absolutely despise it. Now, how can we change this situation to be a little bit better? Okay, in order to go over that, a good way is to survey the board. Now, what do I mean by surveying the board? Okay, how much health do they have? Unfortunately, luckily, this is the beginning of the game, so we don't necessarily have to worry too much about health as of yet, right? Once we get to the middle point, it becomes a little bit important, but the important part is the drive gauges. How much drive gauge does she have? How much drive gauge do you have? And those are the important parts in this exchange for how you want to go about it. Understanding that you do indeed have enough meter to drive rush cancel, granted it'll leave you in a little bit of a red spot, you do have that advantage over her. Okay, so there was no need to commit to something like the heavy blitz. Perhaps you thought it was going to punish, right? But it is in fact a button that is very hard to manage. So off of this instance, it might be good to show walk up grab. Okay, the reason why we want to show walk up grab is because it's the beginning of the game. We don't know what they like to do, so we can try and walk up grab and try to throw them into the corner. When we try to walk up grab and throw them into the corner, they will be at a disadvantage if we're successful. If they decide to tech it and we're unsuccessful in getting the back throw, then now we understand what they like to do off of that instance, and we can take advantage of it later. It's called the blank slate method. Okay, my blank slate method essentially is that once you're in this situation here, you want to try things out to see what they gravitate towards initially, and then we can make adaptations at a later point. Oh, no. That man went boing. He's jumping at you. Do something. Okay? Next thing that we're going to have to work on are anti-airs, okay? I completely understand our people struggling to do DP anti-airs. However, I am going to demand that you start using the standing heavy kick. His standing heavy kick is really good as a normal to check normals, okay? And it is very good and very easy for you to do. Okay, now you did go for this DI. This DI came with certain levels of risk because depending on which button they went for and depending on which height they fell at, they could have very well punished you for this, right? However, they didn't. We have gotten this situation. How do we make the most out of this situation? Once again, let's look at the drive gauges. They only have a sliver left, so how do we make this work? There are a couple of options that you can take. Number one, we can go for something like a standing heavy punch into level 1. We can go the medium punch heavy punch target combo into level 1. We can do standing heavy punch into the eye. That way they put themselves there in burnout and we can bully them a lot easier, right? Things that we can start using is that the forward heavy punch starts to be actually plus on block, and then we can press our crouch leg kick to kind of punish them or keep them in line, right? Instead of this, now they're almost at 1 full bar. Now they're at 1 full bar off of this situation, and now they've kind of survived a situation where we could have well put them in burnout. Because ideally we want to be pushing and forcing our opponents into burnout. We don't want to just be playing the game. We want to force burnout to put them in uncomfortable situations. Because no matter the level, if you put your opponent in uncomfortable situations, they're prone to make mistakes. Feel me? One thing to note is that this button is indeed -5. Okay, one, you got this situation here was already strange off rip, right? Okay, the situation here was already strange. All right, unfortunately we missed the combo that came with it. All right, but we don't want to immediately be pressing crouching short because that button is 5 frames and technically not 4 frames. So while it is a very good button to press, it should not be the button that we're automatically always gravitating towards because it's 5 frames and not 4. Okay, what that means is that if you get into a situation where they press a 4 frame versus your 5 frame, there are going to be some disputes in regards to how you would win that argument. Okay. Yep, this is another situation where it would have benefited you great to, instead of going for this stretch, right? After this situation here, right? After this situation here, you stop here, you use your standing heavy punch, right? Your standing heavy punch. Even if you don't decide to drive rush off of it, you can do something like standing heavy punch into light flicker. I haven't seen you use that option as of yet, and it's a very good option when it comes to playing neutral with this character. Okay, this is another situation where we're kill rushing forward and there's not really a reason to go for this. So what I would suggest is to not opt for this option. Instead of going for this option and just going for dash forward into the kill rush forward, is just kind of chill out, right? What I mean by chill out, throw out a fireball, see what they like to do. Throw out some flickers, see how they react to it, right? This is how you want to play neutral with this character. You can't always be holding forward with this character because while this character does have good offense, one of his strongest aspects is his neutral. So things like his standing medium kicks, his flickers, his crouching medium kick, his standing heavy punch, these are the options that you want to gravitate towards instead of just trying to kill rush forward, because now you're forced into a situation where you have to block. Let's not love a standing heavy punch as much as the next guy, okay? But this button, if your opponent is privy to this, you will get DI'd, especially if you're not canceling it. The unfortunate thing is that you can't go like back with it, you have to kind of go forward with it. So it kind of puts you in a situation where it's very uncomfortable. That is a great DI. That doesn't matter. Now we're in a really good situation, okay? I'm glad you did this because this is a really good situation, okay? Why is this a good situation? Comment down below why you think it's a good situation. 3, 2, 1. So the reason why this is a good situation here is that look at their drive gauge. Okay, this means they have to be particular about how they go about their offense, because if they're not smart, they get burnt out. When they're burnt out, it's our party time. Now they use level 1, which is fine. We're okay. Now, honestly, depending how the next part goes, we're actually in good standing just because of something like that. Now we can go ahead and bully them because they don't have any super gauge to get out the situation. We can bully them successfully and then we win the round. This is the reason why I say it's really important to manage your drive gauge. Burnout is so important, and if you don't manage your super meter on top of that, it's even worse. This is a habit that I'm starting to see, is that every time that someone jumps over your head here, you're going for DI, right? This is not a good decision because here's the thing. You're getting away with this because your opponent is autopiloting. The moment that your opponent incorporates DI reactions into their autopilot, you're never gonna get away with this again. I don't like your button structure, okay? Don't be using it like this. Ideally, the majority of your usage when it comes to this is going to be for combos. It's not for pressure. It's not good for pressure, okay? We need to remove it out of your gameplay, at least when it comes to neutral and getting in. It's not good, okay? So again, instead of going for these type of options, what I want you to start using is to start using your flicker options. Now, you might have been going for OD flicker here, right? But what I would also say is that if you're going for OD flicker, right, you also have to see how much gauge you have versus how much gauge they have. That's why this type of stuff is very important, because now you're putting yourself in a burnout situation and you're fairly close to the corner. Okay, now in these situations, you're going to feel very pressured to try and jump out, side switch, and get back to mid screen because you're uncomfortable. At that point in time, Chun-Li has a plethora of anti-air options that we have to be very mindful of, right? So this is why we want to be very careful of how we structure our offense here. This is good. I like you using this option. His crouching medium kick is a good option, okay? Because the thing is that if you do get the counter hit on that situation, you do get a lot of value off of it. Now, this is one of those situations where I want you to keep in mind where you are on screen. For me, I'm noticing that my back is to the wall. He is in a situation where he's very close to me. So in these situations, we want to go for back throw. Number one, test the waters, see how they react. Number two, you know, it's a good way to take advantage of your opponent. Now, let's suppose we already gathered the data, like they're going to try and go for a tech situation off of that, off of this situation here, right? If we know they're going to gravitate to throw here, we can either A, try to bait it out by trying to go for something like walk forward backdash, because backdash does beat throw attempts. We could also just decide to commit to getting out of the corner. So in order to get out the corner, we walk forward slightly to feign like we're about to go for a throw. And then when they go for a throw, boop, we jump out the corner. Now they're in the corner and they have to struggle, right? Well, I'm not mad at your choice in using crouching light kick here. I do have issues with you committing to light flick or light what do you even call this? What do you even call this? But anyways, committing to blitz is blitz. There you go. God, like, you know, why does this character have names that are just annoying to say, you know? So instead of committing to light blitz is -5. So that means that if your opponent is just like pressing their crouch jab at this point, or even using their standing light kick off of this situation, they will punish you, right? It's something that you always have to keep in mind. Now, granted, they went for a crouch jab at the wrong range, but if she went for stand light kick, this is in fact punishable, okay? So it is something to keep in mind that you don't want to gravitate towards too often. Now, punish this, okay? Another thing is that if you see something like this and you know that you didn't press anything, you should be attempting to parry this, okay? Reason being is because you're already a little bit low on drive gauge. So by parrying this, it gives you a lot more drive gauge back. And then you can also simultaneously drive rush to get big boy damage off of it. Okay, I like the buttons. I like the neutral. The next thing is that we need to stop jumps a little bit better. Fireball. You have a fireball, okay? Don't be afraid to use it sometimes. Sometimes it's good to, at this range here, sometimes it's good to just use your fireball, okay? They're here. There is no danger, okay? There's nothing they can do to you at this range that will get them any value, okay? They can try and go for EX Fireball, right, which will beat out your Fireball, but it's not advised because it will leave them with very little drive gauge, and you saw what happens when you're in burnout, right? The other thing, but even if they do EX Fireball here, it's not likely to reach you. It's probably going to get to this range here, and by the time it eats your Fireball and gets to this range, you will either have enough time to parry it. Suffice to say, you won't get hit, right? This is why I say using your Fireball is very important. Okay, off of this situation, we went for sweep. Reason why I advise against it is because this option is very risky. Okay, this option comes with a lot of risk. If blocked, you do get punished. The button is slow, meaning they can mash afterwards. So there are a couple of options that we could choose instead of that, instead of gravitating towards sweep. Ideally, you only want to be using sweep if you know your opponent is going to walk back and you don't have enough range on your crouching medium punch to get where you need to go. Okay, so this would have been a good situation to use your crouching light kick, okay, or your crouching light punch. Unfortunately, because the way your series from crouching light punch to standing light punch can be a little bit finicky, I understand you trying to gravitate towards your crouching light kick instead, but regardless, I want you to keep this in mind. Okay, after you whiff the first time, I'm gonna need you to stop. Okay, we can't keep pressing. You can't keep getting away with this, old man. I'm gonna need you to stop there, because if we keep committing to things that are not optimal, then we're just putting extra damage on the table for our opponent. Okay, now once again, we're in a situation here where we can choose corner or we can choose to burn them out. I would take a guess and say you're not going to choose neither, because you're going to go for a combo. Correct. Okay. Oh, you did the thing. Okay, already the sweep already kind of is very iffy, but we're gonna keep moving past the sweep because we already talked about it. But okay, you did the bait. You did it. Ladies and gentlemen, we did it. But we didn't follow it up, because this right here, this is game right here. This is them reaching and you not teaching with your standing heavy punch. You did exactly what you're supposed to do on this situation. You were you guessed on whether they're gonna DP or not. If they have the DP, it'll put you either one shot or dead, right? So you went for the bait, which was good, but we didn't punish, and then we went for standing heavy punch into DI, and then now we're in burnout. Pull them in, okay? You're not using your options to pull them in. You can pull them in. Don't forget, you have options for this, and especially because they no longer have ways to stop you from doing this, there's no reason to go for DI here. Use your EX flicker. Your EX flicker will pull them close in this instance, right? Pull them close. Now they have to guess between you throwing them into the corner, or you pressing a button and going for the finish. Now it's the onus is on them to guess. But because you're not opting for these options, you're now taking your ability to make them guess. Now you've pushed them away, and now they've survived the burnout situation where ideally they could have died. See, we got a good hit re-hit here, okay? If we don't know what to do, we should be hitting our crouching medium kick, okay? After this hit here, crouching medium kick into EX flicker. You have the meter, you can do it, just go for it. And if you really wanted to kill, you could probably go into light blitz into level 3 to kill. But obviously we went for a sweep here. We got the punish eventually. We finally decided to punish it, which is good. Okay, let's see how the last game goes. Oh, this is good. Okay, this is much better. I like this. This is good. Okay, this is better. Okay, we walk back out of ranges. Okay, I want you to take note of this. We're walking back out of ranges where they think they can do something. They go for an option. We respond to that option with a button of our own. We get the punish and we go from there. And that we want to be super mindful of. Okay, while yes, walking back is good, but I want you to notice your back is falling way too far back. And now you put yourself in the corner here. See? Now you're already in the corner. You gave up too much space. So one thing that I would suggest is being mindful of your spatial awareness. Okay? So what I mean by spatial awareness is how much ground you're giving up when you're walking back in these ranges. There's going to be a time where you're walking way too far back, and at that point you either have to engage through standing medium kick, or engage through standing heavy kick, or you just try and stand your ground and wait for something to react to. These are going to be your ways of fighting out of it. On counter hit, you actually get 2 crouching medium kicks, and you can hit confirm that. Okay. The second thing is that I love the fact that you're pulling them in, making them guess. Right now they have to guess on the situation. They went for a throw because they thought you were going to try and throw something out. Right, then we can bully them that way. The whole goal is to keep them trapped in this corner here, right? This is your goal. Okay, you kept the right ranges. Now the onus is on you to keep them here, right? You keep them here. If you let them escape, you've lost the plot. Okay. Oh, that was over. Oh, this was over. Oh my gosh, you won. This right here, you won. But it's okay. Okay. After this, see, if we was ready after this, regardless of on hit or on block, because you have enough meter to play with here, there wouldn't be necessarily a bad situation to EX flicker them in, right? On hit or on block. Ew, look at Chun's face. So on hit, we win the game. On block, they're put into the situation where they have to guess for game, right? We want to put them in situations where they have to guess for game. So there's not really necessarily the amount of reward that you get in this instance is more skewed in your favor because they have to guess, right? They can go for level 1, still won't kill you. They can go for DP, won't kill you. But if they're wrong on any of those guesses, they will die, right? The only guess that they will be correct on is taking the throw, in which we are in Platinum 1, which are not going to take the throw. Okay, that's it. No! Play the sad music. Wait. Oh my goodness, you fumbled. Oh my goodness. Okay, let's hit the lab and let's go over a couple of concepts. Alrighty, now that we're in the lab, let's go over a couple of things here. Okay, I want to first and foremost go over the fact that how good your crouching medium kick is. Okay, if you are successful on getting a counter hit crouching medium kick, you do get a follow-up, right? Then we can kill them. Okay, let's start there. All right, so that's something that you should be looking towards doing a little bit more often. Just keep it in mind. And like I mentioned, even if you're not successful, you still get a route off of it. Okay, so let's talk about how to conduct yourself in neutral. Okay, we need to start using this a lot more often. Okay, the reason why is good to just check your opponent, especially when we're out here. It's good to check your opponent because if they want to press anything, they can't press anything, right? Especially a lot of the options that they want to gravitate towards, it'll check them for trying to go for it. Now, some of your opponents might try and jump at you, right? In the case that obviously we're not at the point where we can rip a DP comfortably, right? In the case that we can't do that, what we can do is that we can do our standing heavy punch into kill rush forward. Now the reason why we do this is because it'll leave them right in your face and they have to guess. Okay, and what I don't mean left right guess, I mean more so strike throw guess, because after this situation here, oh, I did miss it. After this situation here, you're anywhere between +7 like +15, right? Depending on the height and whatever have you, you're definitely plus on that situation. So sometimes it'll be just good. It'll be good to use your standing heavy punch into EX just when you're in neutral, just to pull them in, right? If they try to press immediately afterwards, they get blown up, right? Granted, you're using max range. Don't use closer, because if you use closer, obviously you can get interrupted. So ideally you want to use max range. If you use standing heavy punch is not interruptible, right? So you want to use these options a lot more just to check your opponent. These are your strengths in neutral. A lot of your strengths come from being in neutral, okay? So these are things that we want to start using a little bit more often. That said, one thing I want you to practice is getting in people's faces, right? By using button, drive, rush, jab, you are now in your opponent's face, and when they're in your face like this, when you're in their face like this, you can make them guess between throw. You can do something like this, in which it pushes them back. Granted, you are -7, but it does push them back away from you, and depending on the level of player that you're playing, they won't necessarily have punishes for this, right? Another thing is that your opponent might decide to try and walk back. Now, if your opponent decides to walk back, we can use our crouching light punch, which is a low, to check them for trying to go for that, right? A lot of what you're doing is not utilizing his strengths, especially when it comes to neutral. So we want to start changing that up in order to be a little bit more stronger. Okay, so once again, use this more in neutral. Don't be afraid to pull them in, right? You're +4 here, literally anything you want to do. Bop, bop, bop. You want to go for that, you can go for that, right? Afterwards, you want to go for that, you can go for that. You want to go for this, you can go for this, right? Literally, whatever option that you want to go for, it's there. One thing that is very strong is that you can go for this and then walk forward, right? You can go for this, walk back, try to get the punish on it, right? It gives you a lot of versatility, especially if you think that your opponent is going to try and throw you. Then you can kind of take advantage of it like so, and then obviously blow them up for it, right? You did use it a couple times, which I do like, but just keep that in mind that it is an option for you, okay? Now that we've taken them to the corner, what do we do from here, okay? Here we have a lot of options. We can take this route, right? We can kind of just bully them with our buttons here. We don't really have to commit to anything. That's the beauty in this, okay? We don't necessarily have to commit to anything. And the beauty in structuring it something like this is that you can actually just go for you can go for L flicker all the way out here, because let's suppose our opponent decides to try and wake up Kiko Show, you know what I mean? So you pull them in, you throw them out. They can't level 1 out that situation, right? It's a good way to structure your offense. Now, I will be fully transparent in the idea that, oh, and let me actually show this as well. If they decide to try and DP here, right? Let's say they try to DP here, you're out of range. Oh, that is not DP. That is, oh, there it is. So let's say they try to DP out of this situation here. They're out of range, they get punished, and the same situation happens all over again, right? So this is something that we can definitely take advantage of. One thing that I do want to note, however, is the fact that some of your opponents will recognize the fact that you're going for this, and they'll go for DI. So you don't want to over abuse this. However, you do have options against this, but it's just, I want you to take note of this, because if you're a little bit too slow on this and you don't recognize it in time, then you're putting yourself in a situation once again. But there are definitely ways around it, so you want to be very mindful. The last thing that I want to mention is the fact that I don't want you doing something like dash into forward, the command dash. Let's call it a command dash, okay? I don't want you using this in neutral, because there's just too much time before, like, I'm gonna be mashing immediately afterwards. There's just too much time for them to interrupt you while you're doing this before you actually get a button out. So you don't want to be going for it. You don't want to be going for it all the time, okay? So these are things that I want you to start working on, okay? One, use this option to get in. You're +3. You can use throw, right? If you feel like they're gonna go for something, we can go for that, and then we can also check them like that, because there's a little bit of mind game here, because you can go for this, right? Stop there and use your crouching light kick, or you can do the whole thing, right? And if they try to mash immediately afterwards, then they can get blown up, right? So this is the kind of the mind game you can play here. All right, I want you using more flickers in neutral, and if you're going to use flickers in neutral, if your opponent knows that they can't do anything here, they'll stop trying to press here. When they stop trying to press here, then we can take advantage of it and do a normal charge flicker, pull them in, make yourself +4. Okay, this is how we take advantage of the fact that someone will not press on you, because if they think that you're going to continually go for this option, they won't, they'll be less incentivized to try and press immediately afterwards. Then you can start pulling them in for the good stuff. Okay, now with that being said, any questions?